humbled to have you with me today for this edition of Devotions with Brother Aaron. Today I've entitled the devotion, Grab Hold of Your Oar and Row. During my almost 50 years of pastoral ministry, I've often told my parishioners that sometimes it's just as important to hear what the Bible does not say as it is to hear what it does say. The main truth of today's devotion will be about something the Bible doesn't tell us. In Matthew 14:22 through 34, you will find the story of the Apostle Peter walking on the water. Most of us learned this story in Sunday school or vacation Bible school. In a nutshell, after Jesus had just miraculously fed 5,000 people with a few fish and a few loaves, he then instructed his disciples to get into a boat and go to the other side of the lake of Gennesaret. As they were going, a fierce storm arose and caught them in the middle of the lake at night. They were doing all they could do to navigate the storm when they saw something coming toward them on the water. At first, they thought it was a ghost. Then Jesus spoke and identified himself. He told them not to be afraid. However, not really sure it was Jesus, Peter told him that if it was really him, to bid him to come to him on the water. Jesus obliged. Peter then got out of the boat and walked on the water. Unfortunately, he took his eyes off Jesus and began to sink. Peter then cried out in fear for Jesus to save him. The Bible then states that when both of them were safely in the boat, the storm subsided. There are two things I want to point out in this devotion today regarding this miracle. First, in verse 23, we find where the disciples first worshiped Jesus then. Matthew 14:33. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, Of a truth, thou art the Son of God. The second thing is not so obvious. This is the part the Bible doesn't tell us. Matthew 14:34. And when they were gone over, they came into the land of Gennesaret. Now here's my question. How did they get to the other side? How did they get to the other side of the lake of Gennesaret? Jesus could have magically teleported them to the other side. He could have lined them up on the water and marched them across the sea to the other side. You see, there are countless ways he could have gotten them to the other side. But the truth of the matter is that we don't know how they got to the other side. The Bible doesn't say. Therefore, my opinion is just as valid as yours. I can't prove my opinion, but you can't disprove it. I think the hidden pearl of truth in this passage is what the story doesn't tell us. I think Jesus may have told them that the same oars they were employing before the miracle were still attached to the boat. He just may have instructed all of them to grab hold and go back to rowing. The same mandate he gave them before the storm and the miracles was still in place. Get in the boat and go to the other side. I think we may be guilty today of waiting on Jesus to feed the 5,000 with just a few fish and loaves, walk on water, rescue a drowning disciple, or calm the storms we are experiencing, when all along the miracle may be found by simply grabbing hold of our oar and rowing. Sure, trust Jesus for the impossible, but don't abandon your oars in the process. Yes, I have often preached, trust God for the impossible, but do the possible yourself. Do what you can do. I've told folks, if I have a headache, maybe a bad headache, I am not going to pray for God to heal my headache until I have at least taken 2 aspirin and done what I know to do. And when what I know to do doesn't work, the possible, then I'll trust him for the impossible. Oh, And be sure not to miss this. The second part of verse 24. They came into the land of Gennesaret. They wound up where he instructed them to go. Mission accomplished. Ooh, ring the bell right there and put a star and an asterisk by that. No matter how many miracles they experienced along the way, none of those miracles alleviated them and or us from the responsibility of performing the task Jesus has assigned. Amen. Hey, and sometimes we need to listen to what the Bible doesn't say. It's important. Jesus, would you help us today not to get so focused on the miracles that you're performing that we forget the fact that we're supposed to have oars in our hands rowing? God, you've not excused us from the assignment you have given. Lord, I pray today that the very person that needs to hear this will hear it. God, they've seen many miracles. Great things have happened. But Lord, perhaps somewhere along the way, they've let go of the oar. God, help us today to once again grab hold of our oar and start rowing. And don't quit till we get where you want us to be. And I ask this in your name. Amen.